Shalom, la b'chayayim shal yashala. Peace be to the elect of the nation of Israel. Wa kol halayim la Eloheinu Yahweh b'Hashem Yahushai b'Hashem HaKadosh. All praises to our power Yahweh b'Hashem Yahushai b'Hashem HaKadosh, which are uttered in the Paleo Hebrew. Yahweh being the true, almighty, and powerful name of the Heavenly Father, who the world ignorantly calls God, and His only begotten Son's name is Yahushai, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. B'Hashem meaning in the name, Recha meaning Spirit, Kodash is holy, which are uttered in the Paleo Hebrew, the language that has been returned unto the Hebrew Israelites, which consists of the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and the Americans, and of course those Hebrew Israelites that have been scattered abroad, dispersed throughout the four winds, under the Shemayim, which that is under the heavens. Of course, to you I say Shalom. To the elect of you. And of course, I want to give double honors to the elders and apostles at Great Millstone, who were well. Shenya Kabad, La Shalayach, Yom Nawa, Wazaquanyam, Nawa, Shalayashala. Shenya means double, Kabad is honor, La is two, Shalayachim, Nawa means our apostles. Was and Sequanium Nawa means our elders, which are at Godwalla Rechab, Great Millstone. Of course, I want to say Shalom wa Chesed to the elect again. Shalom wa Chesed la B'chayayim shal yashala. B'chayayim is election. Shal, of course, is of. So, of Israel, the election of Israel. Shalom meaning peace. Wa is in. Chesed is mercy. To the election. So, Shemya Mappa, I'm the brother Mappa from Great Millstone Playing Tables Camp. Located, or my name is Mappa Slakia. From the Great Millstone Playing Tables Camp, located here. Babal in Babylon, which is America. Baha Ayar, Philadelphia, in the city of Philadelphia. Coming again with another Lamadium, a lesson or teaching through the Rechak Kodash, the Holy Spirit, which I have here on the screen. West African slavery lives on 400 years after transatlantic trade began, which you have, of course, the continent of West Africa, which a bulk of the slaves, which are Israelites, were taken by the Edomites to the Americas and also dispersed throughout every country upon the earth. When you go into it, really, we'll get a wee bit into that in the scriptures, which the scriptures, of course, have the history of the people, the Lord's people, which are the Hebrew Israelites, the 12 tribes of Israel, which consists of the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and the Americans. Now we're going to go into this article, which it reads here, blessing. Now, they, of course, use different names to protect their identity of the people whom the video does cover, which I'm not playing. I'm just going to read the article. It says, blessing was only 6 years old. Now, you ain't going to see no Edomite name themselves a blessing, or even if this is an actual just a name given for the article, or nickname, or any of that sort. Bless, of course, when you go into a blessing, to go back to the Hebrew word barakim, or from the root barak, which means blessing, or barak, bless, actually slach, which means excuse me. I just said slach. Yeah, actually slach. So blessing was only, which that goes and proves that our people are Israelites as well. Just the nomen omens and such. But going on, it says blessing was only 6 years old when her mother arranged for her to become an unpaid housemaid for, which that's a servant, bod. Okay. Or Bada, I believe this might be for a feminine version of a housemaid. I can go into it, look into it. Housemaid in the scriptures. I'll do that at the end of the lesson. For a family in the Nigerian city of Abuja, on the promise they would put her through school. So for education, she was pretty much given on to servitude, which, of course, education is a powerful thing, which it means to draw out, I believe, which our people, they don't have this truth. They're lost, as it says in the scriptures, where there is no vision, the people perish. And since our people discontinue from their heritage, they don't know the history of actually whom they are. So, of course, they live pretty much in peril and don't have a sense of identity other than the identities that was given onto them, so that they're African and black, these are bywords and such, and mocks and taunts given onto Israelites, which you have it here. We're speaking of primarily at this time Southern Kingdom Israelites, which consists of so-called Negro, so-called West Indian, and so-called Haitians, which that makes up Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. In her hometown in southwest Nigeria, her mother had a trouble making enough money to feed her 3 children. But when Blessing arrived in Abuja, instead of going for school, the family worked her around the clock, beat her with electrical wire if she forgot one of her chores, and fed her rotten leftovers. We're going to begin in the scriptures, which this would be the book of Baruch, chapter 3 and 4, or actually 8. It reads here, Behold, we are yet this day in our captivity, where thou hast scattered us for reproach and a curse, and to be subject to payments. So she, of course, being an Israelite, is subject to payment. Reproach, obviously going through the various forms of shame. A curse. It says, according to the iniquities of our fathers, which departed from the Lord our power, which our fathers, of course, discontinued from our heritage of being Israelites. Start, of course, worship the other gods of other nations, and thus the Lord brought upon punishment, which you read that, of course, in the scriptures. Baruch has a lot of precepts which speak on that. Baruch was, I believe, a scribe for Jeremiah, if I'm not mistaken. So, this is book of Baruch, chapter. I'm going to start here, just bring out precept 1 and 13. It says, Pray for us also unto the Lord our power, which is Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. For we have sinned against the Lord our power, and unto this day the fury of the Lord and his wrath is not turned from us. Right, and you can see it, just from the curses which are upon the Israelites, which are distinguishing marks or a sign on who they actually are, in which Nigerians, when you go into it, they go back to the 12 tribes of Israel, the southern kingdom tribes of, I believe it goes into the Yoruba people, which you could read a bit of that information in the book of the Babylons of Timbuktu on page 131, which it speaks of there are verbatim black Jews, but we know we're not black. There's no person that actually is black. You have people that are various derivatives of red, and you have hues of brown, from the lighter to the darker. You have Jews, which that be, speaking of Southern Kingdom Israelites, as I mentioned, Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, in the southern Nigeria, who are called the Imo Yakwayam, are strange people by the native Africans, but these black Jews call themselves by Hebrew name. They got, in here it says Bani Ephraim, which it says are sons of Ephraim. Now to say that in Hebrew, that'd be Bun Aparium, or Bun or son Bunyam Shal Aparium. Alright, so sons meaning Bun Yum in Hebrew, Bun meaning son, Yum makes it plural. Shal is of, and Aparium, which is Ephraim in Hebrew, and the Lashwan Kodash, which means I am fruitful. I am fruitful. And Yah meaning I am. And Paria, yeah, going back to Paria, I mean fruit. So going into it, it's all fruitful. I am fruitful. Okay. And it says these Jews claim that their ancestors immigrated from Morocco. And it says a fact which Godby says is supported by their language, a mixture of basically an Arabic, which is Magharibi Arabic, and a local Negro speech, which that's another Dubai word. All right, that's basically really you can go into a local so-called, you say Hebrew, you would say speech, which they say thus Abu, which that's father, but it'd be Abba in Hebrew, and the Lashwan Kodash, which is just broken Hebrew, has mixed up in such as it has, they say, the Arabic in there, and the Negro has become Yaba. Mother's Amma, but it says Hebrew M is Ima, which I just gave is Amma. All right, in Hebrew, A and a Ma. It says that the Yorubas around them, the Yorubas, have influenced these Jews to a great extent in their external social life. And that's basically it that I'm going to bring out in that one. You can look it up for yourself, but the Yoruba of Nigeria, of course, they go back to being Israelites, okay? They're not, of course, African, because you have to understand the history that we were in West Africa due to fleeing from the Roman persecution. Okay, which we'll just bring that out real quick. This is going to be the book of Luke, chapter, I believe it's 21, if I'm not mistaken. See if I can find it. It's like 21 and 20. Let's see, I'm trying to think. Right. So this is Luke chapter 21 and 20. And it says here, all right, and this is, you go into it, give me one wee moment. pull it up. The red letter. Words of Yahweh Shai. Which the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ, his pure name. Paleo Hebrew. Ancient Hebrew. Okay. Yahweh Shai is in the name of Jesus. Alright. So going on, it says, Luke 21:20, and when ye shall see Jerusalem or Jerusalem compassed with armies, then know that the desolation thereof is nigh. And it says, then let them which are in Judea flee to the mountains, which is, this is of course, you have to go into the history in which, since the Israelites were in the captivity, all right, being under the Romans at this time, they of course were what had to be a tributary, okay, of Rome, in which at this time, what this is speaking about is the times of 70 AD, or starting I believe at 66 AD, going on to 70 AD, when you have Titus, Vespasian, of course, they of course raided or besieged Jerusalem. So you go into that history. It says, then let them which are in Judea, which that'd be collectively at this time are predominantly so-called Negro, so-called West Indian Haitians, which that'd be the tribes of Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, which was in Rome. You of course had a dispersed of small, remnant of the Northern Kingdom, so-called Latinos and Native Americans there too, but it's predominantly so-called Judites, or Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. All right, which I just told you what they are by words, which is so-called Negroes, West Indians, and Haitians. Now going on, it says, and let them which are in the midst of it depart it, and let not them that are in the countries enter thereinto. Okay, so you have it where when you go into the history about at least 1 million, they said Jews collectively, but speaking of the tribes of Yehuda wa Banyamyam wa Loya, which that's Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, they went into the western interiors of Africa, and also throughout all Asia and such. You can read that in the history. You have to go into the history. All right. So now, let me see. Is there any other scriptures I got? I'm gonna keep it probably basic. You have it where, I'm going back to this article, and I'm gonna just break everything back down. It spoke of how, there was, her mother had trouble making enough money to feed her 3 children, but blessing arrived in Abuja. Instead of going to school, the family worked around the clock and so to beat her with the electrical wire. When her mother later moved to the city to be closer to her daughter, Blessing was unable to be alone with her when she came to visit. That's just slavery. All right, you can go back to the curses which are written in the book of Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter, which is fitting towards this girl Blessing and her mother. Now, because of course of the disobedience of the Israelites, we had these curses being placed upon us. And the Israelite isn't determined by, of course, how they look. All right, at this time, of course, you have it where our people been scattered, so they mixed and mingled, assimilated amongst the people, and lost their heritage. Okay, which their identity, their customs. Though, of course, you have it where some of our people, like you say, the Yorubas, which they are basically they're Hebrew Israelites, right? They know their lineage go back to the 12 tribes of Israel. Okay, now give me a wee moment. That's what I'm gonna do very quick. Alright, so this is Deuteronomy chapter 28 and 15, as we go into often. It says, "But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of Yahweh thy power, speaking to the Israelites, to observe and to do all his commandments and his statutes which I command thee this day, and all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee." So these are some of the curses. Okay, you have it where, as you see, cursed shalt thou be in the city, cursed thou shalt be in the field is the world. So wherever you go, you will be cursed. Cursed shall be the basket of thy sword, dealing with your finances. The woman spoke of being broke. Right, thus her giving on her daughter to do this servitude. It says, "Cursed shall be the fruit of thy body, and the fruit of thy land." Fruit of thy body, that's your children. Fruit of thy land, obviously, are going to the land, which we even lost our land, being Yashala, Israel. But it says the fruit of thy land. That's going to the fruit of thy land. Obviously, our crops and all of that. Okay, which we used to have. It says the increase of thy kind and the flocks of thy sheep. We used to have substance, which is true riches. Okay. It says, "Curse shall thou be when thou comest in, and cursed thou shalt be when thou goest out." Okay, so when you go, I have to go through the different curses. The curses fit this particular chick or Shah, and this makes these Nigerians, they're actually Israelites. Okay, simple as that. This is a byword, Nigeria. All right. But anyway, going on, it says here, they would have told me that my mother was coming, and that she would not tell her that what was happening to me, that I should not say anything. She says of the family. If she asks me how I'm doing, I should say I'm doing fine, they said. So she basically are told to tell lies. As the world marks the 400 year since the first recorded Israelite slaves. Alright, we have to know that we're not Africans. We were there in Africa. Alright, because, as explained, we, back in the history, fled from Roman persecution. Romans are Edomites, so that you know. Okay, and the book of Deuteronomy speaks of that, of how they would said that the Lord would send a nation from right here far, which is Deuteronomy 28:49. The Lord Yahweh shall bring a nation against thee from far, from the end of the earth, as swift as an eagle flieth, speaking about the Romans, a nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand. And you have it where our people, which were in West Africa, they had the Hebrew. Okay. And of course, when you can look at different movies such as Roots, they'll show you how when they came over to the Americas, they had literally their heritage beaten out of them, the language, everything, which is the Hebrew. The Lashwan Kodash was beaten out of them. A lot of them, of course, had Hebrew names too. They, of course, had to take the names of their slave owners. You go into that history, which I'm gonna go into Joel, 3rd chapter. You have the history of the slave trade is in the scriptures. Okay, so this is the book of Joel, chapter 3, and I'm gonna start at three. It says, "And they have cast lots for my people, and have given a boy for an harlot, and sold a girl for wine, that they might drink." On to the slave history. Okay, you go into watch, of course, the movies such as Goodbye Uncle Tom. You'll see some of that wickedness, all right, where you see our Israelite Yalad Yum, or boys. They were turned into homosexuals, and you have it where they were sold. Obviously, they got girl for wine. You got muskets, all that type of stuff. Okay. Now going on, yea, and what have ye to do with me, O Tyre and Zidon, and all the coasts of Palestine? This is, of course, referring to the Hamites, which are Ham in the Hebrew, which means hot, which that is the progenitor. Ham is the progenitor for the so-called African nations, which you go into Kawas, which is Cush, so-called Ethiopians, Matazarium, or Egypt, which is so-called Egyptians. You got Canaan and Put. North Africans is Put, and you have Canaan, which is so-called South Africans. When the scriptures speak about the Philistines and such, those are Hamites. There's another dark race that came up against us, all right, in the history. So they are our enemies. It says, and if ye recompense me swiftly and speedily, will I return your recompense on your own heed. So the Lord, of course, is He's going to bring forth a payback to these nations. But it's posing a question there. What you had to do with me? The Lord never made any dealt with these other nations. Anyway, going on, it says, because ye have taken my silver and my gold, and have carried into your temples and my goodly and pleasant things. The children also of Judah and the children of Jerusalem have ye sold, which that goes into the Judah, just collectively speaking of so-called Negroes, so-called West Indians, so-called Haitians. And you have the children of Jerusalem, speaking of so-called Latinos and Native Americans. So you had the southern and northern kingdom. Have ye sold unto the Grecians, which this is referring to the Edomites, which, going to the history, even Edom, hiding whom they is, took the heritage of the original Grecians, which are original Greeks, because that go into Japhites, so-called Pacific Islanders, Polynesians. Going to that history. It says, that ye might remove them far from their border. And it says, behold, I will raise them out of the place whither ye have sold them, and return your recompense upon your own heed. And I will sell your sons and your daughters into the hand of Judah, and they shall sell them to the Sabians, Hamites, to a people far off. And this is a future prophecy right here. For the Lord has spoken. That's recompense. Because remember, he that liveth into captivity must go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. This is patience and the faith of the saint, roughly paraphrasing. Because these things must happen to those who have, of course, have committed these offenses. Okay, the Edomites, who got, of course, in alliance with nations of, you have, of course, Ishmael, and which is so-called Arabs, and Ham, to round us up and sell us and take us across to the Americas and disperse us across all over the world. Okay, with this triangular transatlantic trade. All right, so anyway, going back, it says over 400 million people are estimated to be trapped in forced labor, forced marriages, and other forms of sexual exploitation, according to the United States. This is more. This number is actually more. It says Blessing, now 11, is one such victim. She was rescued in 2016 by the Women Trafficking, the Labor Extradition Foundation, an anti-human trafficking group. After 2 years of isolation and abuse, she was under the care of this group, which have gave consent of her being interviewed for this particular story. It says Africa, or the land of Ham, was the highest prevalence of slavery, and you know now why, because we were there. Okay, with more than 7 victims for every 100. More than 7 victims for every 1,000 people, according to the 2017 Human Rights of Walk Free Foundation and the International Labor Office. The report defines slavery as situations of exploitation that a person kindly refused to leave because of threats, violence, of coercion, or deception, or abuse of power. And all these things we suffer due to the court curses. As I was giving you in the Baruch, was showing you, we were subject onto payments. And you read the rest of Deuteronomy 28 chapter, it just shows you everything. Okay, the curses which fit this what the people call so-called Nigerian, which is an Israelite. It says trafficking of sex workers. Many have been tricked into thinking they would get employment by doing something else. Is one of the most widespread abusive forms of modern day slavery. This, of course, occurs when, of course, these different, you would say, people come to, some of these Jake and other nations too. They suffer from it too. Seeking a better life in another country, they would, of course, go to them, and they may come with money, but then in the end, they would take their passports and basically put them in slavery. It's not what they would basically yikwab them or supplant them. Wake up to a rude awakening. You're you're actually working in a brothel or something of that nature. Okay, you wake up. You thought you were going to you would think you were going to Europe, into, you would say, Britain. You wake up somewhere, Russia or somewhere else, anywhere out there, and you're, of course, in subject working in these different, as I noted, brothels. Of course, too, in subjection to your new owners. Okay, the sex trafficking stuff goes pretty deep. You have to look up different documentaries on it, but we bring out information. Okay, it says here that the experience of Claudia Osador and the progress of Omi Vija show how poverty increased women's vulnerability to exploitation. Yeah, poverty will definitely increase a woman's vulnerability and exploitation. A lot of women, they just receiving judgment. Okay. So, I mean, pretty much you could go into this if you want on your own. Let me see, I'm probably going to bring out some more edification in the book of Baruch. It says here, Baruch 1 and 17, for we have sinned before the Lord and disobeyed him, and have not hearkened unto the voice of the Lord of our power. It says to walk in the commandments that he gave us. Since that day the Lord had brought our forefathers out of the land of Egypt, out of the land of Matazarium, Egypt being a Greek title, until this present day. We have been disobedient unto Yahweh our power, and we have been negligent in not hearing his voice. Wherefore the evils, which is bad times, cleaved unto us, and the curse which the Lord Yahweh by Shemashai appointed by Mashah Moses his servant at the time that he brought our fathers out of the land of Egypt, to give us a land that floweth with milk and honey, as it is to see this day. Nevertheless, we have not hearkened unto the voice of the Lord our power, according unto all the words of the prophets whom he sent by us. And they have that right now to this day. Explaining more, in verse 22 it says, but every man followed the imagination of his own wicked heart, his own whatever he thinks, to serve strange gods and do evil in the sight of the Lord our power. So this is why the Lord placed us in the condition which you see us in. Okay, obviously to punish us. But you have to understand that we are at the end of our captivity. Okay, we are at the end of our punishment. It says in the scriptures, which I'm going to get the other precept, which was, if I can remember, this is the book of Nahum, chapter 1 and 9. It reads here that, what do ye imagine against the Lord Yahweh? He will make an utter end. Affliction shall not rise up a second time. Right, so you have to understand that this is it. Okay, we have we're at the end of our captivity. We have been under captivity of all these various nations, so it's not gonna rise up another time. Okay, this is it. Okay. Let's see if there's a precept I'm thinking of, but I don't want to misquote it. Has been fulfilled. See if I can find it. Accomplish. And you have to understand that these Edomites furthered the affliction. So as you see even right now to this day, we're still, our people still being put in different slavery, whether it's physically or mentally. Okay, because slavery is beyond being in chains physically. It's also mental. So let me see. See if I can find this precept. It's acting like it ain't finding nothing. This is crazy. Can't find, man, damn, what is it? I can't find the actual scripture that I'm thinking of, but Lord will not bring it out in a future lesson. So I get for, of course, it escaping me at this time. I'll just leave off with another scripture, which will be the book of Baruch chapter 4 and 6. We'll leave it at that. Been a rough week for me. As you see them taking down our videos, giving us strikes. So I'm just trying to, of course, stay up in the spirit. Of course, it's a bit troublesome, but also it's also means that we're doing something positive, obviously fulfilling prophecy. This persecution will come. This is Baruch chapter 4 and 6. I'm gonna start. Yeah, this is 6 like it. It says, I'm gonna start at 5. It says, "Be of good cheer, my people, the memorial of Israel. You were sold unto the nations, not for your destruction, but because you moved the power to wrath, you were delivered unto the enemies." All right, so that's why we angered the Lord Yahweh Shem Shai. So that's why we were put in that place where we were placed, which we were dispersed throughout all these different nations. Okay, which is biblical prophecy. Let me get one more precept too. Okay, this is going to be the book of Ezekiel chapter 36. And see where I want to start. I mean, it's a lot, but all right. So I'm gonna start at, this is Ezekiel chapter 36 and 2. Thus said the Lord Yahweh, because the enemy hath said against you, Aha, even the ancient places are ours in possession. The Babylonians, all these you have the other nations, they rejoice at our fall. Therefore prophesy and say, Thus said the Lord Yahweh, because they have made you desolate and swallowed you up on every side, that ye might be a possession unto the residue of the heathen, and ye are taken up in the lips of talkers, and are infamy of the people. Right, and our people are, I'm going to this word for infamy. Alright, so you got to hear the Hebrew word, which is the ba, which is a whispering, an evil report, a defamation. Alright, this is why, of course, our people are told that they are, you have the other nations that are in confederacy. They speak and wag the tail. They wag their hands and what is it? They they look at us and they sigh, because of these other nations putting them as a byword, proverb, a byword. Okay, Slaki is a bit late. So anyway, going on, it says, verse 4, therefore ye mountain of Yashal of Israel, hear the word of Yahweh, thus the Lord Yahweh, thus said the Lord Yahweh to the mountains, and to the hills, and to the rivers, and to the valleys, to the desolate wastes, and to the cities that are forsaken, which become a prey and a derision to the residue of the heathen that are round about. Therefore said the Lord Yahweh, surely in the fire of my jealousy have I spoken against the residue of the heathen, and against all Idumea, which is the Edomites, the wicked. Alright, I'm gonna have control of everything in the earth. That race that has control of everything is the Edomites. Okay, the elite. Go back to Edom, which have appointed my land into their possession, which is Israel, with the joy of their heart, with despiteful minds, and cast it out for a prey. And upon them, of course, doing this and such, with the Balfour Declaration and all of that, you have it. They also take our heritage and place it to themselves, and you have it where there's confusion, where even our people, they don't know who they are, and they're just going about living as heathen, and of course being destroyed by all these different works of these Edomites, these deceivers. Which they hide this whole thing, that what they do, but it's being exposed through the spirit of power Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai. Alright. This is the last scripture which I'm going to bring out. Is Isaiah chapter 29. And I'm going to bring out 29:18. It says here, and in that day shall the deaf hear the words of the book, and the eyes of the blind shall see out of obscurity and out of darkness. And I have the elect of our people of Israel has been returned back to the law, statutes, commandments of the Bible, their power, and they of course are remembering themselves in the land of their captivities. It says, the meek also shall increase their joy, the lowly, which is the nation of Israel, the elect right now. It says, shall increase their joy in Yahweh, and the poor among men shall rejoice in the Holy One of Israel. For the terrible one, which is Esau Edom, the wicked, is brought to naught, and the scorner is consumed, and all that watch iniquity are cut off. You know these damn devils are, they watch iniquity, because they of course put it out there with their philosophy. Alright. So anyway, that's basically it. Slakia, if it was a bit all over the place, but this lives on. Of course, we did yet to this day in our captivity. So Yahweh sends his son Yahweh Shai to deliver us, redeem us, the elect, the hopefully elect, that is. Hopefully, I'm bar the elect. That's why I say I'm the hopeful elect. we say we're the hopeful elect. So it get revealed we're the elect, but we put on as the elect. That want to give all praise to Yahweh Shem Shai B'Shem Kakodesh and the blind sales and positive agreements on Shalom to the elect. Shalom.